All right. So tonight, Beth Gilmore is going to get us lots of good education. For those of you who are not on here but are watching it, thank you for watching it. Both thank you for those of you who are on here, and thank you for those of you that decide to click on it and watch it. So Beth, let us know that. And Beth, I would also like for you at the end of this to touch a little bit on what you and I were talking about before. That little green light idea is really great.
Oh,
like that.
Great,
so,
I will do that. That's a great idea.
Make a note to touch on that. Thank you.
Okay, I will do that. All right, so I'm making that note right now. Okay, so I'm going to talk about, originally I was scheduled to talk about the sharing your story call that they did for Grow Week for the end of the year. And I had talked to Brent because at the same time in our accelerator training, we were doing a similar kind of training through Dean Graziosi, and he has kind of a different spin on it. So what I'm going to do is, for those of you watching this video, look in Working from the Beach, because I'm going to post a link to that original call with, what's her name? I always say Delray Messer. I always say Melray Dresser or something. So yes, Delray. It was a great call. It's about an hour long, but it's a really good kind of revisit to the kind of the pieces of your story for those of you that still need to kind of work on crafting your story. What I'm going to really talk about today, though, is a little different spin on that and about how to craft a story that actually converts. So what I mean by that is converting means that you're talking to somebody and that story speaks so much to the people that you're telling it to that they want to try Isagenix. So converting it to a sale is what's important, because no matter how good your story is, and trust me, I have a great story. It takes like 15 minutes to tell. And by the end of the time, everybody's like, that's an awesome story. Isn't she great? But they're not always like, I want Isagenix now for me. So it's really important that you have a story that actually converts. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how to do that. Then we'll talk about kind of the different components of it and what Isagenix teaches, and then a little extra piece that Dean Graziosi teaches. So the first thing I want to do is share my story with you. A lot of you have heard my story, and it's shifted in the last year, because what I thought I valued out of Isagenix and what my story was all about before was weight loss. And that is actually not the best benefit I've gotten out of Isagenix. So my story goes like this. So I would start, hi, my name is Beth Gilmore. Thank you so much for coming to my house. I want to share a little bit with you about my experience with Isagenix. Is that okay with you? Everybody goes, sure. So have you ever had a moment of truth in your life that practically knocked the wind right out of you? Like literally it just knocked the wind out of you. Well, I had one of those about 5 years ago. I weighed 371 pounds. I was in excruciating pain. And honestly, some days I could barely get out of bed. I was walking less than 700 steps per day. It was one of those bad days that I looked around and I kind of thought, oh my gosh, if this is what my life is going to be like, I'd rather be dead. And I felt that deep to the core. It wasn't just like a passing thing. It was like, I can't do this anymore. I had no patience for my family. I had no energy. I had nothing to really look forward to. And I was fat, frustrated, and completely stuck. I was so hopeless in my life. Now, if you saw me in the grocery store, you'd never have known that, because I'm a life coach and I'm a great faker. I was pretending to everyone and I was lying to myself. But when I went behind closed doors, everything changed. So that day was my wake-up call. I was like, I cannot live like this anymore. So out of a deep desperation, I tried something I knew was never going to work, because I had tried everything else before up to this point, Isagenix. So I started to flood my body with great nutrition. And within 7 days, I felt like I had the beginnings of a whole new life. I had significantly less pain. I felt happy for the very first time in a really long time, like probably a decade. And my husband even said, just after 7 days, he felt like he finally had his wife back. I felt better. I could move better. And more than anything else, I actually had real hope again in my life. So since then, as I've continued to use these products, I've gained tons of energy, clarity about my plans and my purpose. I have an amazing community of people and support. And I love my life for real in the grocery store and in my house behind closed doors. I have lost 85 pounds so far, but the weight loss is secondary. Changing my nutrition has changed every single aspect of my life. And most importantly, this nutrition has given me mental clarity and strength to handle some of the issues from my past and give me the strength to really untangle the reasons why I let myself become so miserable. Isagenix has been my solution, and it can be yours too. For me, it was hope in a brown box. So that's my story. So it's a whole different story from those of you that have heard my story before. And what I distinguished in this training is that the thing that Isagenix has given to me is hope. And that the people that I want to talk to are not just people who are morbidly obese. They're not just women that have had breast cancer. They're people that feel stuck in their lives and they literally feel like there's nothing left for them. Because that's where I was when I started Isagenix. So what you need to look for are two things in sharing your story. The two most important things. One is, where are you coming from? And we'll talk about that in a minute. And the second one is who are you talking to? So who's listening to you? Because, you know, April has a totally different story than I have. Michelle has a totally different story than I have. Brent has a totally different story than I have. Now, the great thing about Isagenix is if I'm speaking to somebody that is going through some financial issues and that is struggling a lot, then I can share Brent's story. If I'm talking about somebody who is working, who wants to increase their performance and their agility, then I can talk about April's story. And if I want to talk about somebody who wants to lose 100 pounds and they've struggled and they lost 100 pounds and now they're fit and working out and all of that, I can sell Michelle's story. So it's really important that you understand who you're talking to. I know who my people are. So those are the people I'm going to share that story with. But the other part about stories is that you need to make sure that you're not sharing. I'm not going to share my story to somebody who wants a financial solution, because they're going to be like, well, unless they feel completely hopeless and they can relate on the hope part, they're not going to relate to me. So the most important thing isn't to have a great story to tell, it's to have the right story to tell. And that's why it's important that you collect stories. So with my story, the first thing that I said is, have you ever had a moment of, and I say it different ways, but have you ever had this like wide awake moment where it like shakes you to the core? That's the hook. So Dean Graziosi talks about having a hook, a story, and a close. So Isagenix terms is, before Isagenix I was, then Isagenix, and now I. So it's that kind of beginning, middle, and end part. But it's really important that it's really important for you to have a hook, because if you don't get people's attention in the very first minute, they're not going to listen. So think of something like Dean Graziosi. One of the things that he said, and I think actually Doug stole this to do on his story, is, you know, I was sitting there and I was looking at my life and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm 35 years old. I thought I'd be a lot further along by now. Can any of you relate? Like, that's his hook. So whatever your story is, take a minute and look at what is the hook, and then add that before Isagenix, pain point, found Isagenix, resolved it, and now I'm this. Okay. So the hook is really important. Hook, story, close. So know who is listening. It's really important that you're sharing the right story with the right people, because if you aren't, then what you're doing is wasting your time and their time, because they're not going to find themselves in you. And I think that that's with my first story. While it was really meaningful and some people it motivated, it was too long and it had too many details in it that really people don't need to walk away and go, wow, that was really cool. And I'm so glad that she found this. But they didn't go, oh my gosh, I felt that way too. I feel hopeless in this area. Maybe this can help me. So being concise also matters. So then the other part that's very important is where you are coming from. So, and this is part of Isagenix. Delray was talking about this too, is you need to come from a heart of service. A lot of times I hear people say, well, I hate selling. I just don't want to sell. I just, I don't want to push. I don't want to, like, sales has this horrible, horrible connotation because we always think of, like, I don't want to be that used car salesman who pushes everybody and does that. Well, here's the thing you need to know. What is going to change this person's life that's in front of you? Because I will tell you, I've said it publicly. Heidi Fannin knows this. I've posted it everywhere. Heidi Fannin saved my life because she is a pushy bitch. It's a fact. She was pushy. I told her no a million times. I canceled on her probably 4 times. The only reason that I even tried it is because I was about to get 80% of my stomach cut out and my husband bullied me into it. That's the only reason that I tried Isagenix. So you need to look at what is going to change this person's life. And you need to get curate a very strong belief of these products. If you've had a great experience, like for me, everyone I know, anybody who buys products from me uses Ionix because I think that is the number one game changer for me. Doug is selling the crap out of adaptogen elixir right now because he literally he drinks it in the morning. And he's like, this is like rocket fuel. I love my life. So whatever products you believe in and you had a great experience in, those are what you're going to sell. So focus on that and look at what is going to change this person's life in front of you. And the thing that you need to realize that you are in a sales business. Marketing and sales is how we change people's lives. So if you don't like marketing and sales, then you should probably go find something else to do because that's what we do here. Marketing and sales changes people's lives and it's the vehicle that we use. So if you are coming from a place of how can I help people change their lives? And I have something that I honestly believe every single person I know should be on, and I want to serve them so that they can live out of place of being happy and hopeful and powerful in their lives, then they're never going to feel pushed. And if they do, it doesn't matter because they probably aren't somebody that is a great relationship or friend for you anyway. It doesn't matter if everybody likes you. So it's really important to get people to listen first. And it's then next, it's important when we're talking about who are you talking to and who's listening, it's really important that before you even are telling your story, with the exception of if you're doing a presentation or, a sip and sample, something like that. If you're telling your story before you know what everybody else's stories are there, like the people sitting there, what their frustrations, what their struggles are, like, you should never, ever mention Isagenix and, oh, there's this pack and you can do this and you can, until you know what somebody needs, what somebody wants. Like, okay, well, so you're interested in Isagenix. What is it that you'd be interested in? Like, what are the kinds of things, what changes would you like to see in your life? And they might go, well, what do you mean? Weight loss, more energy? Like, where are you struggling in your life? And hear a little bit about what their desires and their dreams are. Dean Graziosi also says a really great thing. Your people, she's showing off with her margarita in Mexico probably too, and I'm a little jealous about that. But April, anyway, I should just X her out so I can't see her drinking her fancy margarita in Mexico. But anyway, so I'd be there too. So anyway, you definitely want to think about who you were 5 or 10 years ago. 5 or 10 years ago, those people are your people. So whoever you were, like with Michelle, people who need to lose 100 pounds and maybe aren't very physically active, and then other areas you're stuck. People who are financially stuck and struggling and don't have a way out. For me, people who felt hopeless and they literally were at the end of the rope with how they were living their life. So look and see, who are you 5 years ago or 10 years ago, and speak to that person. So, all right, so let's see what else, creating your story. So it's important that you be authentic and engaging. If you're not excited about the change that you've seen in your life, when I tell that story and I'm doing it outside of like a presentation to demonstrate it, like I feel it. I know I really was laying in my bed, and I know the day that I looked at Doug and said, if this is what my life is going to be like, I'd rather be dead. And I was not kidding. I was like, like, I can't, no more. I can't do this anymore. And it wasn't like, I can't do this anymore, I'm going to lose a lot of weight and it's a power moment. It was like, I'm so screwed. That's the kind of moment it was. So you need to get in touch with what that pain point was. And it wasn't so much about me being fat, that was part of it, but I was mentally not healthy. I was physically not healthy, and I literally saw no way out. And so knowing that and knowing what Isagenix has done for me, then of course I'm going to share it with everyone else. So that's a little bit about your story. You need to make sure that people can hear themselves in it. That's the number one thing. It's not enough that you have a good story and that you can do it in less than 2 minutes and you have a hook and a before, middle, and after, and a close and all of that. What's the most important thing is that you know who you're speaking to and that those people can hear themselves in your story. Okay. So any questions about that before I move into the other thing that Brent wanted me to talk about? Any questions about stories? Nope. Is there anything that you guys heard today? Oh, Brent does. He can't unmute.
I had to find my mute button. First, honestly, Beth, I mean, I really want to say that's a much better revised version of your story.
Mm-hmm.
I really like it. And I don't know what you're doing with yourself, but you're looking kind of glowy, just so you know. You're looking good. So the fact is that you've changed your story and I like it. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that means a lot. And I think that what you're saying, and I'm saying this a little bit, maybe in the event that people actually that do watch this recording, but a couple of things that you touched on are super important. And they are so important when it comes to the sales thing, right? You made a comment about sales, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people say that they're not salesy because they don't like sales. They think it's horrible. And you kind of had that influx in your voice as well. But a lot of times it's the same thing as MLM, right? So if you just exchange the word MLM or network marketing with sales, people have a negative connotation of it, most likely because they had a negative experience with it.
Yes.
Right. So when somebody says that they don't want to do sales, then especially if there's somebody who's interested in money, then you might ask them, who do they know that's successful in business that doesn't sell their business? And it's going to be hard for them to recognize that one of those people, right? Or who are some of the most successful salespeople that you know? And then see if they can even name any successful salespeople. And then you kind of got to help them out with who those people might be, right?
Right.
Because when you change the mindset about what sales is,
Yeah.
and there for a while, and the team, a couple of years ago, we were talking about how you really need to look at your offering of Isagenix as like a gift.
Yes.
And some people, I mean, imagine having a gift in your hand and you try to show it to somebody and you're trying to give it to them and they don't even want to open the box, right? So sometimes we feel neglected because they turn down our gift when it's not us that they're turning down, it's what's in the box, right?
Right.
They don't want that, whatever that is. They don't even know what it is, but they don't want it. They don't want it because they don't know what it is or what it can do for them. Kind of like what you didn't want from Heidi, right?
Yep.
So if we kind of change that mindset a little bit with what sales is versus what network marketing is, I don't mind saying that I do sales with network marketing, right? Because I know that I'm going to have to employ some sales tools and tactics, just like what you were talking about, knowing who your audience is, right?
Yeah.
And how many times have you sat down to talk to somebody about Isagenix? And I've done it. I still do it sometimes. And I start talking about, oh, well, you know, you can do this pack, this pack, this pack. They don't want a pack. I don't even know what pack they want, right? Even if they did want a pack, I wouldn't know what they wanted because I didn't ask enough questions to find that out.
Right.
So I just wanted to say that. And then the last one is one thing that sometimes we all do is remember how we were before we got into Isagenix and how when people try to present Isagenix to us, how much we pushed back on it. And so when you're talking to somebody about Isagenix, you kind of need to remember who you were when it was being presented to you, when you're kind of surprised at their pushback, because I wasn't. I was like, I ain't doing that, right? It's not my thing, right? I wasn't mad about it, but I just wasn't doing it. So remembering who we were at our moment before we opened the box, right? Versus who we are now that we've opened the box.
Exactly. And I think too, the other thing about that is that if you are doing sales correctly, you're not selling anything, you're serving someone.
Exactly.
Like Heidi never was selling me. She was just pushing because she saw the possibility that Isogenics could be for me. And she wanted me to have that. Mm-hmm. And I always knew it was coming from love. It was still annoying, but I always knew it was coming from love. And I just said, no, thanks. Nope, not interested. Nope. I like to chew my food. No. But she also just kept showing up, and she did a smart thing. She did that whole ad tag message. She put me in Great Nutrition. At that time, it was a different group, put me in Great Nutrition. There was another woman who was heavy like I was, who was losing weight quickly and was working on she's losing weight for a wedding. And she was taking pictures in her bra and underwear at 300 pounds. And I was watching her shrink all the time. I was telling Heidi no. So that's the other thing, is if you keep people engaged in the conversation and you keep tagging them in things that you know they are interested in, then eventually they will possibly say yes. They might not, they might just never be interested, but you're still coming from serving other people. And the only time that people feel pushy is when when someone's trying to sell them something that they don't want. And if they don't want what is in the box, it's because they don't know and you haven't told them how it could make a difference. Or they're in denial. It's one of those two things. Either you are off the mark with, telling them, letting them know what it is and how it could help that thing they want help with, or they just are not ready yet.
Yep.
So
totally agree.
Yeah. Michelle.
Go ahead, Michelle.
I just wanted to say about your revised story. You and I already had quite a bit in common in the first story, and I've heard it multiple times, but I got teary-eyed this time. And I could relate to the other one, but this time that the pain points were more real.
Well, and the thing too about that is that I can say, my first 3 years in Isogenics, when I lost 85 pounds, I can sell it because people want to lose weight, but I haven't lost new weight in 2 years, but I still am drinking shakes and it's changing my life every single day. Yep. And there's no point where I would go off of Isogenics, even though I haven't jumped that hurdle to lose 50 or 75 more pounds yet. And that's important, because that's where I went to look. I got some coaching and they said, well, if it's a weight loss program, why are you still on it? Oh, my story's not about weight. It's about hope. So that's great.
I need to revise mine after hearing that, because I want people to relate to more than just losing 100 pounds, because not everybody needs to lose 100 pounds.
For sure. So then the other thing that I was sharing with Brent beforehand is I did this incredible working call with Sybil, what's her last name? Email?
Yep.
Immel's team today, and she has this great thing. And so what they did is they basically took a selfie like in front of your Christmas tree, and then you put some things on it on Instagram, like a spinny present or something like that, and then you put I have some great discounts before Christmas with my company is offering great discounts, and we're doing a 30-day kickstart. If you haven't gotten the Christmas present you want, contact me, something like that, whatever it was in your voice. And then you create that in like a couple minutes. Then you go on Facebook Messenger and you click all the active users, and they call it green. So we're going to do a green light now for 10 minutes. And you send that to every single person that is currently active on Facebook. I immediately got 5 replies. I sent out 32 and I got 5 replies, 2 from current people that are inactive that they wanted in and they were going to order, and I did that. And then a number of other people that I've been in communication or relationship with, but have never talked to about Isogenics before. And they're like, oh yeah. And I sent them a video. And so now we're, in conversation. So that is a really great way to do it. And I think what I'll do is I'll do a tutorial where I can take my phone shot and show people how to do it, because it's brilliant. Because all those people are there, and I did 32, and so far, like the other 15 or 16 haven't answered, but everybody answered. A couple people said, oh, no, thanks, I'm not interested, or I'm using something else or whatever. But it was a great way to make quick impact. And on that call, I think there was only 8 of us besides Sybil on that call, and 400 messages were sent out. 400 messages in like 10 minutes. It's crazy. So I'll post a little tutorial tomorrow in Working from the Beach on how to do that.
Cool.
All right.
Sweet. Thank you very much for that. Beth, I really appreciate you sharing that information as well. So
yeah.
Okay. You guys have any questions about that? Or have you guys ever done that? April, have you ever done that? The green light thing? I knew what the green light was, saw it, never thought to use it in a business manner. So
Me neither.
great.
It was brilliant. It was brilliant.
Awesome.
Sybil has those tribe time calls. I know you were on today, April. Those tribe time calls that Heidi's always posting are awesome calls. There's always good training, and it's just, Sybil has great tips. And it's not like, oh, let me train you on how to do this. It's like, okay, here's what we're doing. Do this, do this, do this. And then by the end of the hour, you've reached out to like 75 to 100 people.
Yeah.
So it's really productive too.
All right. I'm going to cancel this recording, but I'm going to talk to you guys real quick.